As a kid, I only had one friend that owned a Sega Genesis, and I remember going over to his house and playing all types of games. But there was one game at his house that we weren't allowed to play. So one day when his mom went out to get food, we snuck into her room and we took that game. We popped it in the Genesis, and the things that I saw on that screen horrified me. That game was published by Namco in 1992 and was called Splatterhouse 2. Today we're going to be taking a look at Splatterhouse, and we're going to see if it's still worth playing today. In Splatterhouse, we play as Rick, who's been having strange visions of the Terror Mask, beckoning him back to the Splatterhouse. In the vision, the mask promises Rick that he can somehow save his girlfriend Jennifer, who perished there in the previous game. After returning to the house, Rick reunites with the mask, which he places on his face, and it pretty much turns him into Jason Voorhees. With Rick's newfound power, the two set out to traverse the Splatterhouse so they can go rescue Jennifer. I always wish the game offered us a little bit more story. I find the Terror Mask and the Splatterhouse to be very interesting, and I would have loved to know more about them. But for a game of this time, a story like this is perfectly fine. But that doesn't mean I still wouldn't have liked a little bit more of it. But I guess you get what you get. Anyways, the game is a side-scrolling beat-em-up and plays as such. You move from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen, annihilating any enemy who stands in your path, while avoiding stage hazards. You can jump, punch, low kick, and do the strongest attack, which is the slide kick. Though the combat is simple and your moveset is limited, defeating enemies feels absolutely amazing. When you punch them, it really feels like you are just obliterating them, and it is an incredibly satisfying feeling. That feeling is amplified, especially when using a melee weapon, which can be found throughout some of the levels. I mean, look at this. Boom! In addition to the melee weapons, you can also find a shotgun, which is also very effective, but it doesn't give you that same splatter feel that the melee weapons do. The one sad thing about this is the weapons don't show up very often, so when you see one in a level, be sure to pick it up and get your fill of carnage while you can. All around, the game controls pretty well. The jump can be a bit floaty, but that's something you'll be able to get used to. The only real gameplay issue that Splatterhouse suffers from is it's sort of a memorization game, meaning you're gonna die, and die again until you memorize each level, where the enemies spawn, where you have to stand to kill them, and how many hits it takes for them to die. Though this isn't really a huge issue, because the game offers unlimited continues and also will give you passwords so you can resume your progress later. I wasn't really too perturbed by this, but when playing with my roommate, he brought it up to me, so I thought it would be worth a mention. The levels you'll be traversing all maintain a sinister and ominous vibe, which really enhances the atmosphere of the game. They are all distinct from one another, and each give the impression that you're heading deeper and deeper into somebody's horrible nightmare. From outside environments to indoor environments to torture chambers and even to another dimension. The levels really span the gambit and succeed in making a terrifying atmosphere. And some of them truly are incredibly memorable. There's one level that starts you off with a sea monster eating the dock behind you while you scramble for land. Another one that I found really awesome was walking through this monster cloning lab thing, where the test subjects burst out of their tubes to attack you. Though the game only has 8 stages, another nice thing about the stages is some of them have alternative routes in them, and they can feel like a bit of a punishment sometimes, but it brings a bit of replayability to what's already a very linear game. Regardless of what path you take, every level ends in the same way, with an epic boss fight. And my god, are the boss fights amazing. And it's not because of the combat. In fact, that's pretty simple. It's just like any other boss fight. Figure out their patterns and sneak in your moves when you get a chance. But what really makes these boss fights shine is how absolutely vile and grotesque the bosses are. I mean, look at this thing. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but goddamn is that thing awesome. And it's not just the way they look, their death animations are incredible as well. Honestly, this is one of the driving factors that kept me playing this game. I could not wait to see what kind of foul abomination waited for me at the end of each stage. These monsters are some of the most awesome that I've seen in any game. So the question is Splatterhouse 2 still worth a play today? And if you ask me, the answer is a definite yes. Though the game doesn't offer much in terms of story, it still provides a horrific atmosphere with a fun action arcade style, over-the-top gore, and some of the most grotesque monster designs I've ever seen in any game. If you're a fan of brawlers, horror, or even old-school games in general, Splatterhouse 2 is definitely worth your time. In no way is Splatterhouse 2 an innovator in any way, but that doesn't stop it from being one of my favorite Genesis games, and a game I feel horror fans will definitely enjoy, whether they watch or play. There's so many games that I played as a kid that when I went back to replay them as an adult, didn't really hold up too well, and I'm glad that Splatterhouse 2 didn't fall into that category. I have very distinct memories of this game, playing it with my friend while his mom was out, and being so worried that one of our parents would find out that we played the game. So it took me about 20 years to go back and replay it, but I finally got my chance to finish it, and I guess what they say is true. Better late than never. And finally, I want to thank you guys for stopping by and checking out this video. This is actually the first review video of any kind that I've ever made. I usually just make tutorial videos, and if you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe because I'll be making more content like this in the future. I actually really enjoyed this whole process. So I'm curious, have you played Splatterhouse, or do you have any childhood memories of games that you weren't supposed to play as a kid? I'd love to hear. Feel free to share in the comments. You guys have a good one, and thank you so much for watching.